In today's video, I'm going to address another blind spot, and it's a place that so many of you must be encountering daily in your practice if you're doing couples work. I know that I am. I do 1- and 2-day intensives with couples, and I would say that about 85% of the people that I work with are experiencing infidelity, betrayal. They're dealing with those feelings of devastation, and they don't know what to do about it. They want to save their marriage, and sometimes they don't know if they want to save their marriage, and there you are, they land in your office, and you need to know what to do. It's really scary if you don't have a roadmap to guide you when you're working with these couples, because not only do things get incredibly tense, but there are so many ups and downs on the path of healing from infidelity that you need to know what to do at every turn. For example, sometimes couples come in and they don't know whether they should be talking about the infidelity or not talking about it. They have, a lot of times the person who's been betrayed has such feelings of rage. Do you encourage them to talk about those feelings, or don't you? Sometimes only one person spills the beans and lets you know that that person's been unfaithful. What do? Do you disclose this information? Do you encourage that person to disclose that information or not? And what do you do with the fact that it often takes such a long period of time for people to actually move through the emotions and come out the other side, and so often they feel like throwing in the towel when they're hitting low spots? You need to know what to do under those circumstances. Plus, so many people say, I won't feel safe in this marriage unless I'm very clear about how this infidelity happened in the first place. So just helping people gain that sort of insight so that they can move forward with that understanding, and if at all possible, to really affair-proof their marriage for the future. So it's a huge topic. I think you know that. So since we only have a short period of time today, I thought I would pick just one topic. And first of all, I want to tell you why I picked it. It's the topic of, should we talk about this infidelity or shouldn't we? The reason I picked this topic is so often that is the primary point at which so many couples come for therapy. There's been the disclosure or a discovery, and they're devastated, and they've been talking about it, and the person who's been unfaithful very often is willing to talk about it in the hopes that it will get things on track. And then things get on track for a while, and then all of a sudden they go out to dinner. He was unfaithful. Their waitress's name was Susan. Susan was the name of the woman with whom he had an affair. The evening is completely ruined. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. The week is ruined. It starts leaking over into the next week. And they basically recover from that. They get back on track. He's willing to share information if she needs that information, thinking, okay, now we're back on track. And then what happens is there's another major setback. So generally what happens is the person who's been unfaithful feels, if talking about the infidelity was so helpful, why would we still be having this problem? Because we are back to square one. But the other person, the person who's been betrayed, feels, if you're not willing to talk to me about what happened, that tells me that you cannot fathom the pain that I've been experiencing. And if you can't fathom the pain that I've been experiencing, and if you're not willing to help me with this, then I don't even want to be in this relationship. So that's the point at which they come for therapy, and they each tell their story, and they look at you, the therapist, to be the judge. Should we stop talking about this? Because I can't imagine, says the betrayer, how it's possible to heal if you keep picking at the scab. How is it possible that we're going to get through it if we're talking about what hurts all the time? The betrayed spouse says, I have so much hurt, devastation, pain, rage, and when he's not willing or she's not willing to talk about it, I feel like I'm in this alone. So I don't want to go on like this. This is hurting too much. Okay, therapist, now what do you do? So one of the things that I've discovered that is incredibly helpful is at the end of the session, and even during the session, I let people know that they're both in touch with some aspect of the truth. In other words, they're both right. It's the case of two rights. So what really needs to happen is that sometimes they need to talk about the issue, about what happened, and sometimes they need to have problem-free time. Times where they're just being together, enjoying each other's company, trying to remember what brought them together in the first place. So when I tell them this during the session, and especially at the end when I summarize things, they both feel a sense of relief because I'm validating both of their positions. But in addition to feeling a sense of relief, both spouses hear that there's some validity to the other person's position, which makes each of them a little bit more empathetic to the other person's position. But then this begs the question, which is the second issue that I'd like to address. How much talk is too much talk? Now this is a really important question because I get asked this at seminars all the time. Very often therapists think that it's too much talking about the affair when the therapist feels uncomfortable talking about the affair, when the therapist has had enough already. I can't see how this is going to be helpful for you. Just zip it, stop, don't talk about it anymore. But you need to be aware that that's your issue and just your issue alone. The research shows, and my clinical impression certainly is in line with this, that when one person needs to discuss what happened with the affair or the long-standing affairs or sometimes the multiple affairs, then you have to allow, even encourage for that sort of discussion to take place. Now, there is one caveat. Sometimes that's helpful for people, and sometimes that's not so helpful for people. There are no two people and no two recovery processes that are exactly alike. You need to find out what's happening with the couple sitting in your room. So one of the things I do, and again, let's just say he had the affair. Men don't have a corner on the market of having affairs. Women certainly do as well, but just for the purposes of discussing this, let's just say she starts to ask questions of him, and she's doing quite a bit of that. I will ask her, last night when you asked him those questions, was that helpful to you? Did you find that you felt better at the end of asking those questions? Some people say to me, Michele, absolutely. That was such a helpful conversation because my imagination has been running wild, and my imagination is much worse than the facts. That's number one. Number two, his willingness to share with me what was going on. I know it's hard for him, but at least I feel like we're on the same page together, like we're partners, like we're trying to do this together. So for me, it's been incredibly helpful, and I need to be able to do that when I need to be able to do that. There are other people, when I ask that question, was that helpful? They'll say, well, no, not really. And I'll say, why not? And they'll say, well, now I have these images in my head. Now I have these pictures. Now I have names. Now I have places. And it's more hurtful to me. So I will say to that person, it sounds like asking questions is not a very helpful or effective thing for you, am I right? And generally they'll say yes. Then I'll tell them, I will guarantee you that as you move ahead in the weeks to come, you will feel tempted at times to ask questions. So I have a question for you right now. The next time you feel tempted to ask a question and you know that it's only going to hurt you, what will you do to resist the temptation? What will you do instead? And I will help that person to identify strategies to avoid asking the question, whether it's going out for a run, picking up the phone and calling a friend, going and having a glass of water, going and meditating, whatever it might be. I help that person come up with a list of things that she can do or he can do to avoid asking the question because it's not helpful. So I think the most important point that I'm trying to get across to you today is there are no one-size-fits-all strategies for helping people heal from infidelity. That the divorce-busting way of working with couples is to find out who's sitting in your room, to find out how they respond to the methods that you're using, and to adjust how you're working to fit what works for them. I hope that's been helpful to you. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed the information.